All right, guys. Welcome to Pan African Perspectives, your bi-weekly live stream where we talk about all things Africa related. As we allow people to get in, let me know where you're watching from. Can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, and let me know where you're watching from. It's a last minute live stream. I was out of town all weekend. We had to make some adjustments and some changes as to who we were planning to interview. So now you got me, and we haven't asked me anything. So ask me anything as it pertains to the news of the day on the continent and how life has been going back and forth. I haven't had a solo live stream since I came back from Sierra Leone and Ghana. So I do think I can use, a little bit of time from this live stream to talk through the experience on this last trip and answer some of the questions that people have had about what I do when I go back and forth now. A couple of lessons that I've learned that I want to share with you guys, because I've now been building a house on a property, and I have multiple buildings on the property, to be clear, right? So I have a guest house. I have a caretaker's quarters is what I'll call it. And then I have a main house. The guest house is a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. The caretaker's quarters is a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom. And the main house so far, the first floor, is a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bathroom apartment on the first floor, and I'm working on the second floor. The guest house is also a 2-story. Upstairs is a section to entertain. So people are always asking, how far are we along with the house? And videos are coming, I promise. We had to edit them. A lot of the videos were shot prior to me having a YouTube channel, so I didn't know how to shoot content. And now I have to go back in and add context to the videos that you will be seeing. So it's taken a little while to produce those videos, but those are coming. Excuse me. And then we'll get you up to date very soon as to where we are today. So, this last trip I went to Sierra Leone, I decided that instead of having a project manager basically weekly update me on the progress happening on the ground, I have decided that I am only going to do major projects and major builds while I'm there. So I will stay in Sierra Leone as long as it takes. So this last trip, let me walk you through the list of things I did when I got to Sierra Leone. So the guest house, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom guest house that I had lived in previously, had a generator, about a $350 generator that was basic, right? Couldn't even run the microwave, could never run an AC on it, didn't have ACs installed anyway. And it was limited, right, as to what it could do. Oh, actually, you know what? Let me first introduce myself for those who don't know me, right? So Joe Hatago from Authentic African. I help people visit, move, and invest in the continent of Africa. So if you are interested in visiting, moving, and investing in Africa, that is what we are here to do. And so if you're on this live stream, I talk a lot about my life building a house in Sierra Leone and living on the continent of Africa. I lived in Ghana for a little over 2 years, and I lived in Sierra Leone for a little over a year. So right around 4 years living on the continent. And I can tell you the pitfalls, the things that went really well that I loved, and the plan to go back, right, to moving back, and how I'm building a life that is going to allow for that. So many conversations I have with folks who've had to leave the continent because of USAID, becoming no longer existent, and a lot of funding for a lot of the nonprofits on the continent came from, USAID. To other people that moved on a whim, didn't really think it through, and just moved to Africa and had to move back. And so there are so many different stories. And so the learning lessons that people have learned, and I've also learned, is what we want to share with you all. We also tell people stories who moved to the continent and who are there currently. We talk about people who have businesses on the continent and are continuing to grow those businesses, and those businesses are flourishing. And then we also interview some folks who move back, right? People who have been born and raised on the continent, moved away somewhere, and then moved back after going to school or whatever that might be. So those are kind of the stories that we tell, and my story gets woven into that story or into those conversations. So as I was saying, I'm going to get back to my last trip to Ghana because I just came back about 3.5, 4 weeks ago. It's hard to say now. What's up? We got a couple people commenting, so I want to make sure I acknowledge you guys. So I moved to the continent of Africa in December of 2020. I moved to Sierra Leone and specifically first for 2 months, and then I moved to Ghana at the end of December. Sorry, November of 2020 is when I went to the continent, to Sierra Leone first. At the end of December is when I moved to Ghana. And so I lived in Ghana until 2023, around the middle of 2023. And then I stayed in Sierra Leone after that till early 2023. And then to the middle of 2024 is when I lived in Sierra Leone. And then I moved back to the States. Middle 2024, and I've been living in the States now, traveling back and forth to the continent pretty often, at least three times a year since 2024. So I think in 2024 I went 4 times. Last year in 2025 I went 3 times, and this year I plan to go 2 more times after this last trip, so 3 times total. So I am building a house. And many people have been asking me about this house, right? And, what's taken so long? And I had a conversation with, so I have a new assistant. And so she happened to be in Sierra Leone at the same time that I was, because she's one of the people who've gotten her citizenship through African ancestry. And so I brought her to the house and I walked her through everything. And she was like, now I understand. So maybe for you guys who, and she was also a subscriber previously. So she obviously doesn't need to watch these videos now because she knows everything that's going on as my assistant. But it was one of the questions that she had, like, why is this taking so long? And I think it's really important to explain to you all why this house building project has taken so long. Because many people that I talk to, they build houses doing a couple different things, taking loans. Some people take loans and build these houses faster, right? I've seen people go through the process of taking a personal loan so they can just give all the money up front to a contractor, or much of the money up front to a contractor, and build. I went the route of paying as I go, pay as you go. So I broke ground on the land in 2020. We built a fence around the property, which is a 10-foot wall, in 2020. We also built a pambodi, which is basically a shanty house, right? A pan house that the caretaker lived in. So that was what we did in 2020 into 2021. By the end of 2021, we had already broken ground on the guest house, which is the place that I was planning to stay while the rest of the work on the property was being done. It took 3 different people to get from the fence to building up the guest house, 3 different contractors. And I used a 4th contractor to finish the guest house. That 4th contractor built the security post, they built the new caretaker's quarters, and they built the first floor of the main house. So as you can see, going through these different contractors has led to slowdowns, because of course you have to meet with the contractor, you have to talk through the process and the plan and all those different things. The reason why I fired the first contractor was because he got into another business, was distracted, and neglected his clients that he was working with as a contractor. The second contractor kept spending the money that he was given and not building out the things that he needed to do. And I think what happened was he owed me some work, and he was asking for more money to finish the work. And I'm like, well, the work needs to be completed with the money I've already given you. Luckily, it wasn't too much extra, too much money that he didn't, but he basically was taking money from me and working on someone else, taking money from them and working on my project. And that was how he would do things instead of actually doing what he was supposed to do. So I let go of him. The third contractor came highly recommended from somebody that I know, was building at another location, was one of the only outside contractors allowed to build in a development that had already been built by a contractor who was no longer in country, but they didn't like having other outside contractors coming in. This is the one person that had been approved from what I understood. I brought him in. He did not listen to many of the things that I had asked for. And so I had ended up letting him go. But I worked with that guy over a year and a half. And then the fourth contractor, which was the one that I had been, communicating to everyone, the more expensive guy, but, has a big social media following, and I mentioned all of my frustrations previously. That guy was working on, like I said, the guest house, the caretaker's quarters, the security post, and like the top of the guest house, and then the main house first floor. So these different guys worked on different things. And with each new person, they have to inspect what the previous person did if they do things right. You have to explain it all over again. And I need to be there in person to make things happen properly. So that is why it has taken so long to build this thing. And I recommend to everyone, if you are planning to build, you be there on the ground for all your building. I do not recommend you build without being there. I would never recommend that. You should definitely be there in person if you plan to build. That's number one. Number two, if you can have large amounts of money to pay to get certain things done. If you're doing $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, which was the schedule I was on for a while, that is not going to get you built what you need built. You need to come with $10,000 at a time, sometimes $20,000 to get things kicked off. Depends on the size of the property and what person you're working with. You need to come with a significant amount of cash if you want to build outside of a process where you have financing. A lot of these large projects have financing where they're like, look, you pay a certain amount per month over a 4-year span, we'll get your house built. And that's all part of a process and a project that you can be a part of. In this instance, what we're talking about is me working with someone who's building off of a plan that's something they've never built before, because it's not a template. They're just kind of going off the plan that I've given them. And, they're building according to that specification. And man, was this a challenge. And it has been a challenge. So the last time I was in Sierra Leone, I really came to the realization, which I've seen and heard from other people before, but I realized that it's very rare to be able to have a project manager operate on your behalf and do those things when you're not there. It just really is. It requires you being there to make sure things are getting done. And I'll walk you through that in a second, but I want to address this comment really quickly. So Kimmy Phoenix says, you are sounding ultra wealthy. Maine, caretaker, guest houses, jet setting 3 times a year. I'm jealous. Good on you, Joe. Well, yeah, I mean, look, I set aside budgets for all of this, right? I am building for my future. So I have chosen to spend my money instead of doing, vacations to the Bahamas or Tulum or Greece or Thailand, where I hear all these people say these are their dream destinations and they save up all year to go to these places. I save my money and utilize my finances to build for a future, right? And that came from mentors of mine, people who I have seen live very comfortable lives in their 50s and who retired early because they followed these principles, right? And that's just ensuring that they had multiple streams of income, and many of them had been through real estate. And so what I'm looking to do is to build on our portfolio and, including real estate, and ensure that at some point in time in the future, I can retire early and I can work if I want to, not because I have to. So yes, obviously I had to move back to the States because the career that I am in does allow me to afford these kinds of trips. And the company that I work for does understand that, and I work on East Coast hours when I'm in Sierra Leone, but they understand that I'm in the process of dealing with some things in Sierra Leone and fixing those things. And as long as the majority of my time is in New York City, as I am right now, I can do what I need to do work-wise. So back to the topic at hand. So this last trip to Sierra Leone, these are all the things I did in 3 weeks. So I built 2 sets of stairs. One was upstairs on the guest house. One was downstairs going into the main house. There's just 3 stairs, but 3 stairs were built. I dug out, and by I mean a group of people from the neighborhood. I had a gutter that was 2 feet deep on the side of my property inside the property that was overflowing with dirt from all of the excavations done from the guest house, the caretaker's quarters, the security post. They would just dump the dirt into that section there. And so water was not flowing out of the property, it was flowing all around in the compound and with nowhere to go. And so it was like, flooding different areas, etc. So that needed to be fixed. So we had them do that, and then we raised the walls up a little bit to ensure that everything is captured. So that's one. Two. So I did stairs, did the gutter. I built a new kind of gutter, a makeshift gutter around the property, and cleaned up all the dirt around the property. I installed Starlink internet so that I could have fast and high-speed internet. I redid all the lighting in both the houses, the guest house and the main house. I bought a diesel generator. So the generator is about, I'm going to say about 3.5 feet high or so. So the medium to small 7 kV generator that can operate with AC and other like household units, because I did that. I used it for those things. I also bought an air conditioner, had it installed, bought a hot water heater, had it installed, bought a water pump so that the water, a 0.5 horsepower or half a horsepower engine water pump, so that the water I have powerful water flow coming into the house. So that was important. I built a covering and paid for a covering to protect the generator, because the generator is sitting outside underneath the tank farm. So I did that. I also waterproofed the floating ceiling on the top of the first floor, and built a temporary pan roof over top of it for the rainy season, so I don't deal with any leaks like I did last year. Bought a bunch of blocks that had to be put around the property and that are there to kind of help hold everything together. The top of the first floor. What else did I do? And I also changed out the shower heads and the bidets in the bathrooms. And I had to have my electricity fixed. So I had that fixed. So I did all of that in 3 weeks. But what did that mean? That meant that I stayed on the property the entire time. That also meant that I didn't just sit in the house and worked, but I walked outside and asked them in the morning, what are you planning on doing today? And when are you going to get started? Then at the end of the day, checking in. Okay, how much got done? But also in between, just doing quick pop-ups and checking in. It's annoying to them, but it saves you on more money and time. If you want to get something done, you have to be there in person to watch what's going on. Because I will tell you this right now, many of the contractors, and we're talking specifically in Sierra Leone right now, every country is a little bit different, but many of the contractors, they themselves have multiple places they need to be, and they're going to be at the place that's paying them the most, and they're going to spend the most time there. So then they have a subcontractor. That person will likely have a site supervisor, and potentially the main contractor may have an engineer at your site too, but that engineer may have to work at other places. So the only way you're going to make sure what you need to get done gets done is if you are there in person. There are exceptions to every rule, but I live life based on the rule, not the exception. I know someone who built his house in Sierra Leone completely remote. He built a house in Ghana completely remote. It's a miracle that he got what he wanted. I need to check in on him now at a 1.5 years removed since everything's been done, and see if everything was done to his specifications and there are no issues. But it's a very rare that you can get that done. And so you need to be there in person. And I will tell you right now that had I not been there, half of the stuff would have been done incorrectly, because I was there to tell them and to guide them. Do it this way. Do this. What is this that you're doing? Why are you doing it this way? And yes, it feels like someone who is hovering over them. But if you want excellent work done, then you need to ensure that you maintain that level of excellency. If you don't, Nobody else will, because nobody else has to live in there but you. And, you know, I have an aunt and uncle that would take turns going to Sierra Leone, and they would spend like 3 months at a time sometimes. And they got their house built in a little under a year, a little over a year or something like that. I can't remember exactly the time frame. But they were there 3 months at a time. They built a massive house, multiple floors, right? And all the finishings and everything. And it made sense that they were there to watch everything happening so that they could do exactly what I just told you. So I would definitely recommend those of you who are thinking about building a house and you're not building in one of these massive developments, that you are there all of the time while your house is being built. I cannot emphasize that enough. It is one of the more challenging things to do is to go to a house that is nowhere near the way you thought it was going to be when it was supposed to be done. Anyway, so we got a couple people here. What's up? Let's J Will. Is that the name? Sorry, for whatever reason, it seems really tiny on my screen, so I can't see it. And then shout out to Sonia Cotton, sorry, checking in from Chicago. What's up? Yeah, so that is the advice that I would give you. Any questions, comments, thoughts? Does anybody have any questions for me? Let me check to see the IG if there were any questions. I have a question for you, my brother. This is it's Lucian. Let me know what your question is. Go ahead and ask it and I will answer. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else. Okay. Katlego says, hey man, look, whenever you say you send a PDF for investment portfolio in Africa, I can't receive the message. I don't know how to do it. Okay, got it. So on Instagram, if you type comment and you're supposed to be getting a message in your inbox. Did you get a message in your inbox? If you did, click on give me the message and it will send you the PDF to your email. You have to go to a website. You'll have to go to the site and sign up, or just go to insights. Go to investment.authenticafrican.com, and that will be where you can fill in your information and you'll get the PDF. So investment.authenticafrican.com, and you'll be able to get that PDF. Just fill out that form there and you'll get it. Sonia saying hello. Jerry is saying, at that rate, you're better off being the contractor. Yes, you are. And look, at the end of the day, this is a lesson that I learned. And so for most people who, like, I have relationships on the ground, right? You know, I don't have this platform if not for that. And I still have gone through all these challenges. So imagine if you are new to the country, the continent, you don't speak the local language, you have challenges just navigating what challenges you might run into. So I definitely recommend for most folks who are thinking about building on the continent, you build as part of a development, one of these larger developments that are happening. You buy a pre-made apartment from an apartment building, something to that effect. If you want to try to be as hands-off as possible and you want to limit your interaction and the work that's required, that's what I would recommend you do. If you do not do that, I promise you, you will be in for a world of hurt. It is very challenging. And I'm not even mentioning all the other challenges with scams and all that. I'm talking about people who are working above board and still having all these challenges. So Sonia Cotton says, do you help consult with relocation? Depending on the country, but I do. I also can put you in touch with people who help with relocation in countries that I don't cover. So there are people who help with relocation in Nigeria. I don't help with that. And there are people who I know who help with relocation in Kenya. I do not assist with Kenya because in Nigeria, I've been once for 2 weeks, so I don't have any expertise on relocation there. And in Kenya as well, I've never even been to Kenya, so I cannot help with relocation there, but I do have someone who can. Now, if you're thinking about relocating to Ghana or Sierra Leone, I absolutely can help with the relocation conversation. And if you're thinking about relocating to South Africa, I can put you in touch with someone there as well. If you're just trying to figure out where you want to move on the continent, with all the information I have from the interviews I've done and the research that I've done and the places that I've been, I can help with just giving you some guidance overall and pointing you in the right direction. So, Sonia, depending on what you're looking for, you can sign up for a consultation. I think my consultation is sl.authenticafrican.com. You can sign up for a consultation there, fill out the form there, and then make sure you schedule a date and time for the one-on-one consultation if you want to have that. You're saying your maternal ancestry is from Guinea-Bissau, a Portuguese colony. Okay, Guinea-Bissau is a country that doesn't get talked about much, but it is in West Africa, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it is. Wait, where's Guinea-Bissau located? I don't want to start saying that it is, and then, yeah, Guinea-Bissau, yeah, it's in West Africa. Yes, of course. And so, yeah, it's one of the few Portuguese-speaking nations on the continent. All right, it's between Guinea and Senegal. That's right. You know, and so we're not even that far away from each other from Senegal, from Sierra Leone, sorry. So yeah, it's between Guinea and Senegal. Right. So I don't have a ton of folks who have a lot of insight into Guinea-Bissau. I'm going to be honest with you. If that's where you're looking to relocate, if you're looking to relocate potentially somewhere else, let me know and you can sign up for the consultation. So you can either do Ghana.authenticafrican.com or sl.authenticafrican.com. And I can have a high level conversation with you about the process of potentially moving, but you still have to book a time. So even though you fill out that form, you'll still have to book a time through the Calendly link after you fill out that form. So you need to go fill out the Calendly link form, and then you'll be able to book some time with me. All right, any other questions? Pastor Catherine Smith says, Joe, glad to catch you on live. Such a blessing that you were able to get much accomplished with the house while in Sierra Leone. It is, and it was difficult. Not easy at all. No easy. No easy, no easy. Any other questions for me about what's happening on the continent right now? Moving to the continent, investing, visiting. Some folks had asked me if I had watched the show Polygamy. I have not yet. I will watch it. I'll have some commentary on it soon. People are asking me about shows that are based on the continent. I do not watch a lot of television, although in my day job, I work in TV. I've watched more than enough television for all of us, let me tell you. I spend my days being more productive now. I have a lot more going on, you know, with my full-time career and with this platform and servicing all of you. So it does make it difficult for me to have time to watch TV. Don't watch a lot of TV. Most of my free time is on doing research on the different things that we are discussing on a weekly basis. There you go. Let J. Will says, live your life instead of watching TV. My whole thing is like, I'm focused on building my own dreams instead of watching other people's, right? That's been my whole thing. I did watch a lot of TV though back in the day. I can't lie to you, but I realized once I stopped watching TV, my life changed tremendously. Okay, so Sony saying, what's happening with the genocides in Sudan, Congo, Cameroon? There's a genocide happening in Cameroon. I'm not sure there's one in Cameroon. I know Cameroon has their internal conflicts from time to time, but I think we're talking about South Sudan. South Sudan has a conflict. The DRC, yes. The Democratic Republic of Congo, for sure, yes. They have conflicts on all three. And so, I mean, as far as what's happening there, I mean, you know, it's proxy fights in every country, right? You have folks that have been accused of supporting the rebel sides, right? The non-governmental sides. And, you know, there are a lot of accusations. I don't want to speculate too much, but, you know, as far as like today, the most recent, I mean, the DRC it's constantly under siege and under attack. I can't even go into each individual, but if you have a specific question about a specific country, I could. But I mean, at the very basics, it's each one of these have these groups that are unfortunately unaliving citizens who are just trying to live their everyday life. You said there was an issue with the Ambos, I don't even know how to pronounce that. The Ambazonian. Let's see. Okay, it's an armed conflict. Okay, but it's not a genocide, right? As of yet, but there are separatist militias. Okay. Okay, so separatist militias fighting. So same issues. So started in 2016 with peaceful protests in 2016 with Anglophone. Okay, so it's mostly like Anglophone versus other groups, right? I mean, it's the same thing though. When you have third-party proxies step in, it comes you end up having issues. There are ways that you can do something tangible though. I've done this before and I've shared with you guys some pages on Instagram where you can be effective and you can help out. The DRC is the country that has the most, from what I have seen, DRC and Sudan have a lot of like GoFundMe's, etc. There's an Instagram page that I have shared with people previously. I think it's called Doctors. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it. It's always hard to find this stuff. Okay, iHeartAfrica.org is one place that you can go to support and help people in the DRC. That's probably the easiest thing I can do is just give you iHeartAfrica.org. Great question. So Richie Rich 1173 is asking, what's going on with citizenship through African Diaspora Ascension in Sierra Leone? It is still on pause. And it's Shaka bars, Shaka. Chaka bars, yes. But to answer this question here, third-party proxies, yes, I agree with you. Okay, so the question was, what is going on with citizenship through African Diaspora? So this is still on pause. I had this conversation in Sierra Leone just maybe about 5 or 6 weeks ago when I was there. I sat down with somebody who is in conversations with the government and looking to reinstate this program. It is on pause. There's a lot of speculation as to why it's been paused. There's a new minister who oversees this group, and this has gone through the Monuments and Relics Ministry. It has not gone through immigration or tourism. Whereas, you know, in Ghana, for instance, even though they didn't have a specific set program and it kind of spanned across 2 different administrations, they used Ministry of Tourism, Interior, Foreign Affairs, Office of Diaspora Affairs, like all these groups were a part of the process. In Sierra Leone, it's the Monuments and Relics is kind of the main people heading this up. And so from what I understand, it's on pause and we don't know when it's coming back. They are lobbying for it to come back. There's been a lot of conversation and questions about how to make it more effective and make sure that people come back to Sierra Leone more often after getting their citizenship. Just we will keep an eye on it and let you guys know. I don't have an update, unfortunately. Question, how is the e-visa process going for Ghana since it was launched recently? That's a great question. That is a great question. And I have not gotten any updates. I have not gotten any updates as of yet. Let me see if I can ask my trusty friend who knows a little bit about this, and maybe I can get you an answer. It did just launch on the 25th of May. No new updates except that it's been ongoing. I don't know too many people who have gone through the process. So once I hear back from folks who've gone through the process, maybe they can give me, an update there. But so far, I only have basically it's just been ongoing. So I couldn't better answer that question. It's just an ongoing process. Here's a question, or here's a comment. I wish I could relocate to Burkina Faso. AES shares my values. This is from Sonia Cotton. Anything is possible. You could do that. I just recommend spending some time going back and forth as often as possible, and figuring out an income stream before you do it, right? That will allow you to live there full time. I know someone who's not recently, but in the last 5 years made that move. If you guys might remember, when I used to go live with African Stream, that's no longer in existence, unfortunately, for reasons that you guys are all familiar with. And, we're not going to rehash that here on this live stream. But there's a correspondent who worked with them who had made the move to Burkina Faso herself, who I used to go live with on the live streams, Inem Richardson. And so she made the move. And, throughout those live streams, we'd obviously do pre-live stream planning of the stories we were going to go over. We would also meet beforehand. And there were some challenges at the time with connectivity, internet-wise, and electricity. And I know those are things that Ibrahim Traore has been 100% focused on. Well, not just 100% focused on, but ensuring he's focused on that because he has other things to focus on as well, but focused on solving those challenges. And one of the things he's looking is into nuclear power, like nuclear electricity and power. And he's been talking to the folks in Russia about that. And so we will see what comes of that. But I definitely recommend visiting Burkina Faso. And I know ADDI has been working on permanent residency and citizenship for folks. So we'll maybe get an update from those folks. But those guys went to Burkina Faso at the end of last year. And so it might be worth looking into ADDI to see. Here's a good question. Any new developments for intercontinental or cross-country flights within the continent of Africa? Well, it's by airline. So each airline is a little bit different in terms of what flight routes they cover. And I will say that there hasn't been any specific updates to ensuring that these routes are expanded. The main thing when it comes to airline routes is demand, right? If there's a lot of demand, the routes increase. So for example, post 2019, the year of return to Ghana, 2 airlines increased their number of flights. Delta has a flight almost every day flying out of East Coast, New York, New Jersey, wherever, to Accra, Ghana. United Airlines has flights multiple times per week flying from Washington, D.C. to Ghana. And so it's all based on demand. If there is a larger demand, then the airlines will take more risks to open up more flight paths and have to pay that cost of fuel and all the things they have to pay. They have to pay the airports to have their planes parked there, all the things that they have to pay for. It's really all on supply and demand. If there are many more people looking to fly between these countries, the airlines will do it. And many of the airlines of yesteryear are no longer in existence, right? There are many countries that had airlines that were like country airlines that are no longer in existence because demand slowed down to travel to different places and they couldn't justify those costs. But there had been a top 10 list of airlines that people would travel with across the continent. And I know somebody recently had an issue with Ethiopian Airlines, but I've flown on their airline and I haven't had too many issues. Even one night I had to do an overnight stay and they put me up in this, the Skylight Hotel? Very nice hotel. Very good experience with Ethiopian Airlines. They're part of the Star Alliance, which so is United, so is Brussels. So I've flown on Kenya Air. I've flown on Ethiopian Airlines. I've flown on Air Peace, which is based out of Nigeria. I've flown on what else? Africa World Airlines, AWA, and a few other airlines, more like local airlines between countries. But it's all supply and demand. Once there's more demand, you get more flights between countries. Understandable supply and demand, but sometimes they pilot for 30, 90 days to test the waters. Yeah, I mean, I think in today's world, when it comes to taking risks, most businesses would rather have guaranteed income to make a decision than to do a test and not know how much demand there's going to be. I gotta just be honest from how companies operate these days. It's not like yesteryear where people would test things more often and see how it'll go and see if we can get some demand now that we've seen these being successful flight patterns and pathways. These guys are saying we are not going to do this unless we know that there's demand. And that's just kind of how it's been. One thing I will say about these international flights, though, is that they give you food. They make sure to feed you on these flights, and they wake you up in order to make sure you eat. And so that's what I've seen on the cross-continental flights, of course, and flights to the continent from outside the continent. I've flown into Africa from Europe and the United States, and of course, I've flown between countries as well. And I will say, you know, as long as you have enough time and you can do your dietary restrictions and all of that, they do at least make sure you eat. Now, everyone can decide whether or not they like the airplane food or not, but they do make sure you eat. I will say with Air Peace, they did a little Nigerian jollof once, and they also did one on one of my flights with Air Peace. They did noodles, spaghetti, because that's become a new thing with Indomie, and coming to West Africa, and noodle culture has grown in West Africa. And I'm pretty sure it's because of folks like Indomie. But yeah, I mean, I've had Nigerian jollof on Air Peace before, and I've had some of the vegetable related meals that Ethiopia's had. But I've had fairly decent food on these airlines. All right, cool. I have a hard stop at 6:00, so I do want to give everybody a chance to ask any final questions if you have them. Let me see if there were any final questions. I'm just trying to scroll through Instagram to see if I'm missing anything. I don't know. So is development or less than that? Sorry. This is the baz. I'm trying to understand your questions, but I think you're writing in real time as I'm talking. So I'm trying to go back and read your questions and your comments. So yeah, I mean, if you have anything specific, definitely let me know. Let J. Will says, great point. Would you be willing to share a document with the airline company you have personally experienced? Oh, I mean, like what companies I've flown on? Pro Women has a question, but let J. Will, let me know what you mean by that question. Pro Women is saying, shout out to Pro Women. It's been a while. Welcome back. Question, did you see my question about the state of the Repat Diaspora report? No, I have not seen your question about that. I also may not have seen the state of Repat Diaspora report. Let me see what this is. I'm not even familiar with it. Oh, okay. I've seen the cover for this actually. Okay, I haven't dug into it yet. Accelerating global shift towards structured home country migration, economic integration, and emergency evacuation management. I did not see your question about this, Pro Women, but I do need to look into this. So let me review the document and get back to you for sure. And the next time I do a Q&A or ask me anything, I'll make sure to have some insights, or maybe I'll just talk about it directly once I read through it, but I'll definitely have to read through it. I have it on my reading list Yes, the airline companies. Thanks for sharing the information. I don't have a PDF, but I'll walk through it here if you want to write them down. So Ethiopian Airlines, and you guys can get this back on the replay too. So Ethiopian Airlines is one that I've flown on. Kenya Airways I've flown on. I think those are two of some of the better ones. Africa Airlines I've flown on. Air Peace I've flown with. Oh, I've flown with Royal Air Maroc, which is Morocco's airline. I do not recommend that for people. Some people have told me they were fine with it. I don't recommend Royal Air Maroc to anyone because they were rude to many people. Just a lot of challenges with Royal Air Maroc. They had lost luggage for so many people. Disaster, in my experience, with Royal Air Maroc. One major experience and then other experiences that other people had. In fact, I know someone who started putting air tags in their suitcases because of an experience they had with Royal Air Maroc. Hate to be the person to say it, but it is what it is. So I've flown with them as well. Of course, I've flown into the continent on Brussels Airlines because that's one of the airlines that flies to Sierra Leone. I've flown onto the continent with Air France previously. But I try to fly around the continent between countries with African Airlines as much as possible. So yeah. All right. I think those were the final questions. One last round of questions before we go. I have a long evening. I have a 2-hour session I have to do this evening for a new cohort that I'm a part of based around venture capital. So I'll definitely keep you guys posted on that. Oh, one other thing I need to mention to remember and remind you guys of, we are still open for and taking entries for the Win a Trip or Win a Holiday to Ghana contest. You can head over to edo.authenticafrican.com to sign up for your chance to win a trip to Ghana at the end of this year or potentially early next year. So definitely recommend you guys check that out. It's Monday morning for me. I need to go to work soon. Monday morning, where are you located? It's already 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm interested, maybe you're Hawaii, maybe? Oh, okay. You're ahead of time. Got it. So it's Tuesday morning for you. Got you. Okay, cool. Well, guys, I want to thank you guys all for joining. It's been an exhausting weekend and an exhausting start to the week. We will be back on Thursday with This Week in Africa. We will keep you guys posted. Next Monday, we'll be back with This Week in Ghana. And so we will have some, and we'll have a guest on in 2 weeks from today. We'll have a guest on the live stream to talk about her business that she's running in West Africa. So with that, I want to thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys all on the next live stream. Bye, guys.